I'm coming into that shit, really?
Welcome into another edition of Trust the Process Live. As you can hear, the NFL is back, sort of. The first week of the preseason just got underway, finished with, and the Eagles took on the Titans last Thursday, losing to them 27-10. Max, what were your initial takeaways of that game?
I was really happy the over hit by half a point. Okay. Can I start there? My really initial take is that preseason football is just as much as a tease as it has always been. Every year without fail, I get so excited. 30 days until the first Eagles preseason game. Counting down day by day, night by night. It gets here. Carson doesn't play. Alshon doesn't play. Zach Ertz doesn't play. None of the players that I want to see play. And it is a snooze fest basically through and through. I will say that the thing that stuck out to me the most while we're on the topic of quarterbacks is that none of our backups are Nate Sudfeld, which makes Carson Wentz's health infinitely more important than it ever has been, if that's even possible. So I think that was my initial takeaway, is that seeing Sudfeld miss wide open throws to Goddard and others really in his first couple of drives before his injury and everything, there's cause for concern there. We can't afford to lose Wentz again this year. We've had this nice fallback option the last 2 years where you have a proven guy like Foles being able to come in, and we just don't have that anymore. So to me, it's still Carson Wentz's health, number one priority, and now I would put that as number 1 and 2 priority.
Gotcha. James?
Yeah, I completely agree that that preseason week 1 is maybe the most pointless thing. And it's funny because you get so hyped that football's back, you definitely tune in, and then after the first drive, you're sitting there wondering why you're watching it again. My biggest takeaway is that you guys really have a beast in Dallas Goedert at the tight end position, and you legitimately have 2 very good tight ends on your offensive side, and you're going to be one of the very few teams in the league who not only run 2 tight end sets, but are very efficient in 2 tight end sets. And there's very few defenses in the league that can afford to guard 2 beasts of tight ends like you guys have. You guys have a good receiving core. I don't like to give the Eagles many compliments, but I will give one, and that Dallas Goedert is a beast. He's going to be paired very good next to Zach Ertz. If he takes off again like he did last year, it might be a lot of trouble for defenses.
Agreed.
I'll give that to you.
The preseason is a money grab, and the only reason that people are this disenchanted with it is because the Philadelphia Phillies suck. If the Phillies were actually playing winning baseball, people would be okay with waiting for week 1. See, the problem is it's a twofold problem. The NFL has gotten into a place where the owners are trying to capitalize on the fact that people love football and that there's a huge gap between the end of the season and the start of the next season. The other piece of it is the fact that everybody's team has Super Bowl aspirations at the start of the season. Everybody is 0-0. Everybody can make the Super Bowl. Realistically, everybody's not going to. But that first preseason game is that first taste of what you've been longing for all summer. So that's why the little BS headlines that you see make so much news. Antonio Brown, all these other things, Freddie Kitchens, what's going on with Odell not practicing, guys not playing. Nobody cares. None of that matters. Preseason is a waste. I said it 2 years ago. I said it last year. I'll say it again. If you want to make the most of it, simply cut out the pointless preseason games. You're better off having guys do walkthroughs against teams that they will practice against and let the fans pay to come to see that than having pointless preseason games and make the final 2 games against games just for rookies where the guys who are trying to make the team get to come out there and audition because nobody cares if they make it or drop a pass or whatever. And that's how they make their 53-man roster.
And we're going to talk about that a little later in the episode, but I'm going to go back to Max for a second. You mentioned you're excited to see the starters. What are you most looking forward to in game 2? Is it those starters?
Hopefully we get a taste at least of all the guys that didn't play. In terms of, I guess, the starter that got action in game 1 that I want to continue watching, Avonte Maddox looked good from the time that he had on the field. I really think that he is going to be an important piece for the Eagles. We've had all these cornerback issues, and they've been getting better the last 2 years. But really, when's the last time we had a guy just kind of come out of nowhere, especially a cornerback or in the defensive backfield in general, and really just become an impact player? I think Maddox has that potential. He showed it last year, stepped up big in the playoffs, but that was a very small sample size. A lot of guys, have a great 6 to 8 game stretch in the rookie season and can't duplicate that. So I want to see if he's able to, and I thought he was off to a good start in preseason game 1.
I like Avonte Maddox, but who's the number 1 receiver for the Titans again? Anybody of relevance?
Corey Davis.
And there's my point. A guy who was average at best last year.
Can only cover who's in front of you, man.
Yeah. You got to do it against guys that you're going to see.
I would love to bring in Julio Jones and put him in a Titans uniform for that game.
You absolutely don't want to see Julio. The Eagles fans hate Julio because he cooks them every time he plays them.
Preseason doesn't matter.
But again, to that point, when you're looking at who you're excited to see, I know everybody's all souped up on this, Foles versus Wentz. They might play, 5-6 plays, and then they'll be off the field. It's not going to be anything of significance in this game. It's not a regular season game, and it's sure ain't the Super Bowl. What I'd really like to see, which I think will probably happen, is D-Jack versus Jalen Ramsey. Because I want to see a top-notch cover corner against a top-notch speed guy and see how they match up. From what I've heard, Sidney Jones has actually been able to keep step for step with D-Jack. So either Sidney Jones is a lot better than people thought he was, or D-Jack's lost a step. Because at one point, nobody could stay with D-Jack. So it could be a combination of both. But I want to see what a top shutdown corner like Jalen Ramsey does matched up against D-Jack. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
That's
all
good.
right. And something that actually say that the preseason does not matter, which I kind of agree with you, but what does matter is that the injuries that come from the preseason, Nate Sudfeld broke his wrist on what was really an inconspicuous play. He falls down to kind of support himself, and he breaks his left wrist.
Oh, the slow-mo was... Ugh.
So, Max, you were speaking to how they don't really have a quarterback after Sudfeld that is playable in the NFL. E.T., I'll go to you. Do you think the Eagles should bring in a quarterback in lieu of Sudfeld's injury to back up Wentz?
I thought they should have brought a quarterback in anyway because Carson Wentz isn't showing you the ability to stay healthy at all in his NFL career. That's me talking logic and common sense. If you're going to let Nick Foles go, bring in a replacement. You had a guy like McCown sitting out there who just retired, but, probably for a contender to come ride the bench, maybe play a couple games, he comes in. There's a bunch of guys you could go and trade for, Matt Schaubs and some of these other guys. I mean, just bodies who basically understand football and can be game managers. But they should have done that anyway. Now, the bigger question is, does Wentz play in the preseason? Yeah, he's going to get, maybe 6 or 7 series at max. They don't want him to take a lot of hits. They don't want him to get injured at all. He can get injured getting out of bed, but, they want to try to reduce it in actual gameplay. So they're going to play him very sparingly. Do I think he needs it to get the rust off? Yeah, we've seen that he's had some issues with consistency from last year. He gets off the slow starts in football games, which is a big deal because then you're putting all the pressure on your defense. They don't want that this year. Does he have more weapons around him? Absolutely. Is he now a full year removed from the injury? Absolutely. So this is going to be the true test to see if you're going to get 2017 Carson Wentz or 2018 Carson Wentz, and that will determine if the Eagles made a good investment or a bad investment with the money.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I mean, with all this quarterback thing going on, with all the quarterback injuries or that have been piling up, I don't think they need one yet. I think if you lose another one, then absolutely. I thought Sudfeld's injury was going to be a lot worse. I think that it's only going to be 6 to 8 weeks,
It's
which
like
obviously
over,
is
right, a month, just a bit.
Yeah. So at this point, your
Four
first
something.
regular season game is still more or less 4 weeks out. I think you can probably afford to not have Sudfeld maybe the first 2 to 4 games, absolute worst case. And then at that point, he should be fine. Clearly, the coaching staff has a lot of faith in him as a backup. So that's good enough for me as a fan who trusts what this regime does. So if they think Sudfeld is good enough to be the guy that can take over for Wentz, if God forbid if Wentz goes down, then I'll ride with that. But should we have another injury or if Sudfeld gets hurt again during the season, I think without question you can't hesitate and you need to bring someone in.
That's interesting because a couple questions ago you just highlighted how bad you thought Nate Sudfeld looked a couple series missing wide open throws, and now all of a sudden you're okay because the coaching staff says we have faith in Nate Sudfeld. There's also things that coaching staffs do that try to justify what their actions, and not going and get a backup quarterback may actually say that we're going to tell everyone we have faith in Nate Sudfeld because we can go get a backup quarterback. But there is a quarterback out there who every year in the NFL gets thrown out, his name gets thrown out there, that people should go out and get
it's
him.
the time of year again.
And it's that time of the year, and I think the Eagles fit into that category of probably should go out and get him. Colin Kaepernick is still out there, says he's ready to play football, says he's in shape, says he still has the mind and the ability to do that. At the very least, give him a workout. At the very least, give him a trial. This is what preseason is for, right? Go see what Colin Kaepernick has, because then if you get him and put him on your team, now you have an actual good backup quarterback in case Wentz goes out again.
And I think he's enough years removed from the political position that he took where if he comes to a team, it's not going to be the same as when Michael Vick came here. See, this fan base is showing you that they're capable of bringing guys in if the guys can actually play. I mean, there was an uproar to the heavens when Michael Vick came on. Then he started to play well, and everybody was like, oh, Michael Vick's not really that bad. He did his time.
Right.
Let him play.
Well, and
same thing with Colin
and
Kaepernick.
here's also the thing. There's also another player on your team who doesn't kneel during the national anthem, but doesn't put his hand over his heart. Malcolm Jenkins puts his fist up in the air.
Well,
so he's shown solidarity with Colin Kaepernick in that, so I don't even think the Eagles fans will be mad at him.
It's interesting because I actually think there was a divide between Eric Reed and Jenkins, and also Kaepernick and Jenkins could be one of the factors that keeps him out of the Eagles uniform. But that's neither here nor there. We'll see what's going to happen. Press Taylor, their quarterbacks coach, said they weren't interested in bringing in a quarterback, but you never know what's going to happen. So backup quarterback we talked about is right now a hole. What are some other holes on this Eagles team going into the season? Max, you want to start us off?
For me, it's probably linebacker.
Oh, yeah, we agree.
Like it has been kind of last
Based on
year.
play alone.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan Jerry still has not kind of, he was, exactly. He was a 4th round pick. He was supposed to be at least a guy who could at least be a stopgap. I thought he was pretty underwhelming from what I saw on the field on Thursday against a not, offensively, explosive team.
Marcus Mariota stinks, and he still look bad.
Which is hilarious.
And Tannehill
Would it even matter
Tannehill
who they played
sucks.
first between the two of them? Because I think
Does anybody remember when all Eagles fans were screaming they wanted Mariota when Chip Kelly was here? Go, we want Mariota. Go trade him and get him. And
People
now
are saying
look,
they wanted Jamarcus Russell too. Things change
I
after
mean,
the draft.
look,
I mean,
Mariota can't play.
I still think one of the biggest holes is the secondary because most of your players there still have a question mark above their head. You have Avonte Maddox, who wonder if he can come back in a second year. You have Jalen Mills, who wonder if he's going to come back the same, and if he comes back the same, if he's going to be good anymore. Sidney Jones is coming off an injury. Malcolm Jenkins still has a contract dispute over his head a little bit for a question mark. So I still think there's a lot of things to be figured out with the secondary, which at its full strength isn't the greatest and the biggest thing to hang your hat on if you're an Eagles fan anyway. So that might be some cause of concern.
Actually, real quick, I actually think they made a huge upgrade in secondary with getting Andrew Sendejo.
Yeah, that's
I think think about. Yeah?
The Viking, our resident
But he
Vikings
can't be
fan.
worse than Corey Graham. I don't think Andrew Sandejo lets up a 4th and 15 to lose you a game. And even if
fourth and 18.
whatever, exactly, even worse. Even if that one play doesn't happen, he's worth every penny we give him.
We agree. So because linebacker was the obvious choice, I'm going to go offensive guard, and here's the reason why. Your stud and one Mr. Brooks is still injured. You're concerned about whether or not he's going to be the same guy when he comes back, especially being a big man, depending on his ability to be, flexible in the pocket, being able to move around. That's a big deal. And now you've got guys in there with Schnewski, and, they're looking at maybe putting Mylott in there, and they're looking at a bunch of different things. It's things that make you wonder, how important is that? Because that's the second closest guy to Wentz on the O-line behind the center. So if that spot is weak and they get pressure up the middle, guess who's likely to take hits? Carson Wentz, and that's the guy you have to keep upright to have success. So whether or not Brandon Brooks is going to be that guy when he comes back, is he going to play? That is a big hole to me because they didn't really improve the depth there.
Okay, so obviously they do have some holes, but they're going to be looking to the young guys that they brought in, the rookies, to fill some of those holes. E.T., out of the Eagles rookies, who is going to have the best season?
So I know a lot of people are going to say probably Miles Sanders because he's going to get a lot of touches. I'm sure you guys are. I'm going to go Andre Dillard, and here's why. Jason Peters won't finish the season. He won't even finish games, which means Dillard's going to get a lot of time to play. Now, say what you want, and I get it. Preseason's not a great measuring stick. But Dillard, for what they said, actually looked good, not just in pass protection, but run blocking, which was something that they had concerns about drafting him. And if the kid gets the technique down, learning from an all-pro first ballot Hall of Famer in Jason Peters and how to run block, learning those techniques that Mickey, swim move, how to avoid that, the thing she showed us on a show a long time ago. If he's capable of doing that and doing that effectively and being able to keep his man off the ball to protect that blind side to where Peters doesn't have to play as much, and they can start to kind of phase him out and let this kid get reps, even if maybe they slide him inside for a little bit because that old guard position isn't as what it needs. The kid's shown that he's fast, he's quick, he's agile. He can play both positions in the meantime, and then when they need to slide him over for Peters when he comes out of games, he can play both. I think that's going to be the biggest piece for them.
How about this for an idea? Straight out of the NBA's load management policy, play him against your bad teams like your Giants. Like for example, give Peters a quarter off, or maybe not a quarter, but I think that's maybe a little bit too ambitious to game plan, with one quarter having a different guy. But give him a whole game off, right? Like home against the Giants, whenever that game is, are we really worried about the Giants beating us in Philadelphia? Probably not. Let Dillard get in there. Give him an actual chance to have first-team reps in a game. Give Peters a game off. And that's not even counting the games that he probably will miss.
Yeah. I won't answer who's going to have the best season. There's only a couple, right answers for that. I'll say, versus expectation versus what's going to happen. Who's going to have a greater season above expectation? I'll go J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's going to come in as the fourth receiver on your team, but he's going to be in a lot of red zone packages too. Big guy receiver, has great hands, and I think when the Alshon Jeffries and the Deshaun Jacksons and the Zach Ertz and the Dallas Goederts get a lot of attention, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to be able to exploit a lot of defenses and take advantage of those holes. And I think you're going to see a good return on investment for drafting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alshon also tends to miss time with injury from here to there, so there could be an opportunity for him.
He's gonna, and all of them are a little. Deshaun Jackson's getting a little older too. He's gonna have opportunity to step up and make some plays, and I think he's gonna be able to.
I'm not sure if Mark and Michelle is a rookie. I would assume he's probably not.
I'm not sure.
Nah, he's a couple years old.
Yeah, I would assume he's probably
26.
not.
He's Sony
But
Michelle's
I
brother, I'm
mean,
pretty
there's
sure.
always
Yes,
room for a home run hitter, and as far as I know, we don't really have one outside of Deshaun Jackson. So I know he's not a rookie, but if we're staying on the theme of new guys instead, I think that he could be a.
I think he's better than Shelton Gibson and Mac Hollins.
Shelton Gibson, who's not on the
Bryce
team
Treggs,
anymore.
go down the list.
Yeah.
Make sure that you guys share the show, comment, let us know who you think is going to have the best season out of all the Eagles rookies. But James, I remember when we were back talking about the preseason, you said that you disagreed with ET when ET said that it didn't matter. Why do you think do you think the NFL should make changes to the preseason?
Right. I was about to say, no, don't get me wrong. The preseason does not matter, but I don't think the NFL should change it because it does have its functions, and it's not meant for stars, which is why stars never play in it. It's meant for coaches and those second and third string players who are on the tier of making teams and need to prove themselves, and coaches need adequate time to evaluate those players. If you have a third string cornerback, you say, right, and you cut the preseason down to a couple of games, or you cut the quarter lengths or whatever, and that player only gets a handful of snaps to actually prove himself, and he misses 2 of them, that your sample size is too small to actually evaluate the player. Also, that you need players you need time for the players to actually get acclimated to full game speed. You don't hit as much in training camp anymore per NFL rules. So you need time for them to get full contact, to get the kinks out mentally or physically, and you have a 4-game stretch to be able to do that before you play games that actually matter. So the preseason is for that. If we stop thinking that we're going to see star players all 4 games for the preseason, then lower our expectations for it, then we realize its true purpose, and that's for coaches and those second and third string players.
Right, yeah, I agree. I mean, think about it like this. There's a reason that every sport in the world has some kind of preseason before the actual, meaningful games start. It's to get people up to speed, to get new guys acclimated, to figure out what kind of talent you might have, hidden in the rough on your roster, right? So I think that the preseason in and of itself is necessary to the game, but I don't think that there's any reason we need 4 games. I feel like coaches are going to see most of what they need to see at practice. Obviously, that needs to translate to the field in games, which we really need 4 meaningless games before the games that count. Do we need that to figure out who your guys 50, 51, 52, and 53, and then your handful of practice squads?
You were wholly against it. So.
I'm still wholly against it. I think that for what it's worth, the slot that you put out there, the risk of injury you put at guys, your starters, to be honest, really don't need preseason. The only guys that really need it are rookies and guys trying to make the roster. Listen, Pat Mahomes going out playing, there's nothing good that can come from Pat Mahomes playing preseason. Absolutely nothing. The kid is a gem. He doesn't need it. Aaron Rodgers doesn't need it. Tom Brady doesn't need it. There's a reason these guys don't play. All that can happen is bad things. Injuries, late hits, some guy trying to be a little overzealous. Now, you're talking a guy like an Avonte Maddox who's trying to earn a spot as a starter. That's fair, but that's what I'm saying. Guys that are fighting for roster positions, not guys who are solidified. And that's why I think that for what it's worth, either make preseason free or cut it down. You don't need 4 games to know if the 58th guy on the roster is going to make the roster. He's the 58th guy. He's not going to make the roster. You don't need 58 guys. You don't need 4 games to know if Chayton Thorson is going to make this roster. He's going to be cut, put on waivers, and signed to the practice squad. You don't need 4 games to see that. If you want to make it count more, if you want the games to mean more, either A, add 2 more games to the NFL season and pay the players more, find some guarantees, some way to make it lucrative, or cut it down where you have literally 2 games that are strictly for guys that come in that are here just to sit here and get their heads bopped off and try to make a roster, and then maybe a quarter where you see some starters, and then the rest of it, just let it go. Just get rid of the excess waste. Give them another bye. There's so many different ways you could do it to just make it more meaningful.
I mean, I agree with you that elite players, there's really no need for them in preseason, but there's 11 guys on the field at one time for each team, and not all 11 of them are elite players, but all 11 of them are starters. And there are some players, especially coming back from injury, that I need to see this player play full speed and contact and pads to really know what I'm going to get out of them. One of them is for the Eagles, Darren Sproles. You might want to see what Darren Sproles has to do in full contact or something like that. A player like that coming back from injury, he's a starter, but I haven't seen him in full contact since his injury, and it doesn't do me any good to play him just in practice against my team, players he already knows and players who already know him.
You saw him on the tail end of last season. He played.
Max, one more point.
Yeah, real quick before we move on. I totally agree with James's point. The simple fact of the matter is this: out of the 53 guys on an NFL roster, how much more of them are stars compared to the guy who had to fight for a roster spot at some point in his career? And that's why you have the preseason.
There you have it. And if you're following along, make sure you share the show. Comment if you could make a change to the NFL preseason. What would it be? Let us know. We'll read it out on the show. But it is now time to step aside for halftime. And a word from today's sponsor, Hala Vodka. if you want to read more, see more of Holla Vodka, you can go to www.hollaspirits.com to find their products. But we're now going to step aside. Sean, would you like to read the feedback of our viewers?
Yeah, we're just going to kind of do a little roundup here. Akil Gardner says, I think it'll be Sanders simply because he should get the most touches in terms of the rookie that should break out. I feel like you guys overthought that one a little bit. Sanders was like, you figured everyone was going to take it. Nobody took him. I agree. That was a good one. So Ty Moore says, no preseason, totally unnecessary. Roberta Batts agrees with Everett. And Ty Moore, this right off the presses, I would get rid of preseason. It's a waste of time, and you risk players getting injured for games that don't count. Guys?
ZT, do you have like a burner account? Yeah. Ty Moore burner account?
I don't. I don't even have a phone.
But do you step into a marathon and run it without stretching? No, you need time to get ready. If you go into week one without any preseason games, players are going to get hurt too.
Right, they have it. And now it is time to go into word on the street. You guys have one word to fill in the blank. The first question, blank should be the #1 pick in fantasy football this season. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. ET, you're first to draw. What do you got?
All right, so I'm pretty sure everybody with a brain will probably take Saquon just because of his usage. I'm going to go Le'Veon, and here's the reason why I'm going to go Le'Veon. You're playing on a Jets team that actually has a pretty decent quarterback. They built some weapons around for Sam Darnold, and they give him a high-volume running back who's fresh. I mean, literally played no football last year. That guy is going to be a workhorse. 400 touches, I predict, and those 400 touches are going to equal 4 to 4.5 yards a carry or 4 to 4.5 yards per touch. Plus, he's going to get catches out the backfield. He's the total package. He was the #1 last year until he sat out. He'll be the #1 this year.
Gotcha.
I'm going to stay on theme of running back, but I'm thinking who's the only running back who's not going to deal with a whole lot of change this season? Has the same quarterback, has the same offense. Actually, the only change he has is the guy he had to share touches with leaves his team, and he's still a dual threat, and that's Alvin Kamara.
Let's go, baby.
On the Saints, I think he's going to have a huge year. His touches are going to increase, but his offense and his head coach and his quarterback doesn't. So, sorry, Max. I think I took yours.
Yeah, Max definitely has to clean that up there.
But Alvin Kamara is my choice.
All right, so I had Alvin Kamara simply, well, for all those reasons that James just listed, and the addition of the fact that the Saints are a good team, and good teams need to run the clock down, which is really what separates him from Saquon. That the Giants are not going to be milking a lot of clock this season, and I think the Saints are probably in contention for at least another 10-win season, right? But to play devil's advocate real quick, Saquon will likely get more touchdowns than Kamara simply because he has such a greater volume share of that offense.
And here's the other piece to the Kamara argument. Kamara had a lot of touches early in the year, scored a lot of points, and then the back half didn't look quite as good. My concern with Alvin Kamara is being a feature down back in an offense now where he's not splitting any carries with Mark Ingram, who's now in Baltimore. I think that hurts him because now teams can actually game plan just for him.
Right.
And they're going to find ways to take him out of the game because outside of him, I mean, all they've got really is Michael Thomas. I mean, they've given up a lot of pieces over the years, and they really didn't replace him with a whole lot. They just depend literally on Breeze being able to air it out. And we also know that they're a different team on the road than they are at home. Again, I like Alvin Kamara. I think he's a top 5 pick, but I just don't think he'll have a bigger volume over a guy like
Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks of all time of not only sharing the ball, but kind of making players better than they are. He kind of made Michael Thomas better. No one expected
Michael Thomas a lot of
money. Michael Thomas is a man.
Yeah,
I don't care what you. I don't think better than he is. Michael Thomas is a top 5 receiver.
So we
in
have
football.
Le'Veon, Kamara, and also Kamara. But
you can put me down as Saquon.
you can go Saquon. And per CBS, Saquon is the #1 average drafted guy in all
Only if
fantasy
Daniel
leagues.
Jones plays.
Matt Berry, by the way, you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it. Le'Veon is a lose-it pick right there. Another lose-it pick
Like he
could
was
possibly
last
be
year.
if you pick a guy who doesn't play, Zeke Elliott, wanting a new contract, he's holding out. The Cowboys will be blank without Ezekiel
first.
Elliott. James already has
Cowboys
it.
will be expletive. They will be effed without Ezekiel Elliott, especially if this whole Dak Prescott thing, continues to mature as it's going right now. Him asking for $40 million. There's no way the Cowboys or any team in the NFL pays Dak Prescott $40 million a year. So if that's truly what
He's
he wants,
smoking good.
the best. So
Or
if that's,
CTE,
so if it's truly that, and he's not going to accept his contract, and they're going to have to go forward without him, and they don't bring back Ezekiel Elliott too, the Cowboys are looking for like a dismay of a season.
ET?
So I'm going to go wild card. Without Zeke Elliott, the Cowboys are at best a wild card team because they won't win the division. I have them as a wild card team just because of the fact that Amari Cooper is still a #1 threat. Dak Prescott is still a decent quarterback. Say what you want, but his numbers head-to-head against Wentz are actually a lot better. And his statistical
the
numbers.
classic quarterback head-to-head win comparison.
But when they're fighting for the division, it comes down to one game. Dak Prescott is better than Carson Wentz, and he has more experience in the playoffs.
So you're saying
those
if you're a
things
GM,
matter.
you'd rather take Dak over Carson?
14-year career, no. But if I'm talking about strictly off the merit of where they are right now at this point in their career, Dak Prescott is better and more accomplished than Carson Wentz. Okay. Those are what the facts are.
Regardless.
With Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing
Max,
with you.
what
That's
do
why
you
I said
have
they're a
there?
wild card team.
So, bonus one, ET is blank wrong, and the Cowboys will be 5-11 without by far
you're
the
on
best
drugs.
player on their offensive team.
You're
That
on drugs.
offensive line is declining year in and year out. Amari Cooper has no one across from him or in the slot, and has a quarterback that thinks he's worth more than any other quarterback in the league. That
think of
defense
Randall
gets
Cobb.
hurt every year, ET. They are not consistent regardless of how well they played last year. And if the Cowboys do not have Zeke Elliott, they will not win any big games. And chances are one of these 5 comes from one of the last 2 games of the season where they play someone that
I will predict
doesn't
this
care.
right now, and I'm not a Cowboys fan. The Cowboys will have a better defensive rating as a team than the Eagles will this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we can talk about how we're going to measure that, but yeah,
can.
we'll talk.
So now looking at the West Coast, in what has been really one of the most bizarre sagas I've ever seen in pretty much all of sports, Antonio Brown, that actually concluded today. He said he's going to return to football. Of
course he
but
is.
He's
almost,
disappointed
He's
with
not
the
giving away
decision.
he
30 million.
threatened to
31.
retire over a helmet model. That's been resolved, thankfully. But Antonio Brown's actions have been blank this offseason. E.T., you're ready to go.
Exaggerated, and here's the reason why.
Thank you.
You have to know a drama queen when you see one, okay? LeBron James, I love the purple and gold, is a drama queen, okay? Antonio
Drama
Brown,
king.
Antonio Brown is a diva and a drama. Terrell Owens was the same way. Push-ups in the parking lot. It's all drama. There's nothing going on that gives them anything. Antonio Brown is only a headline if you make him a headline. If you don't want him to be a headline, ignore him. Now, the thing about the frostbite on his foot, that's different because that wasn't his fault. He's in a cryogenic chamber. I get it. But the thing about the helmet, listen, that's clickbait. He just wants attention.
He said he was threatening to never play football again.
Because he
He's
got
the
You
best
don't
receiver in the
believe
league.
that? Let me ask you a question.
That's what he said,
If I
though.
gave you $31 million and you said you're going to have to quit and give it back, would you? Would anybody
hold on,
believe
I
you would give
I
it
never
back?
thought that he would, but Max,
all right,
go ahead.
there's the point.
I got you. We all thought Le'Veon wouldn't give up his 24, 25 million
Big
last.
difference.
Not really.
He wanted a contract.
wanted
Antonio
to
Brown
spend
already
over
got
half.
his
All right,
contract.
Go ahead.
Regardless, Antonio Brown this offseason has been hilarious because he dyed his mustache blonde.
Yeah, that's
which
creepy.
was possibly
Very creepy.
Which was possibly the funniest thing to happen in this whole NFL
Dyed it back.
offseason after the Giants drafting Daniel Jones at 5 or 7, whatever they picked. Six, right in the middle.
Everybody gonna crucify me for this. His actions were understandable.
No, they weren't.
Understandable. Look, all he wanted was his old helmet. I get that it was outlawed. All
They
he
told him
wanted-
for 10 years.
His
he
old
did.
helmet that'll get his brain out of his
They
ears.
told him the last 5
When he
years,
had
you
it-
have to get rid of this helmet suit. You have to get rid of this helmet suit.
And in
You
the
have to
last-
get rid of this helmet suit.
and
You have
in-
to get rid of this helmet next
and
year.
in the last 5 years, when he had his helmet, he was the best receiver in the NFL, damn near.
So is this like Mike? If he doesn't have the receiver now, he's not going to be able to catch.
Probably.
All right. Well, there you have it.
and Tom Brady
He's
even
got
came out-
27 options.
And Tom Brady even came out. and said-
27.
And Tom Brady even came out and said, "I understand where he's coming from. I hated the new helmet too, but we all got to make changes." So Tom
Exactly.
Brady even said he understood his mentality, he understood where his thinking was coming from. I understand.
I don't like my.
going
I
to-
love my car, but here's 27 options to help you get a new car. I'm going to pick one of the 27.
Not if the car
right,
is
all right.
the best
Kill
car
you.
Here's
driver
what
in
we'll
the
do.
world.
Leave it to the fans. Let us know what you think about Antonio Brown's actions. Share the show so your friends can tell us what they think about Antonio Brown's actions. But looking forward into this new season, last year Pat Mahomes was out of nowhere. He was the MVP by a long shot. Who is the dark horse candidate who no one is talking about is blank? James, why don't you start?
Aaron Rodgers, if he ever could be an actual dark horse of an MVP. He's coming back with a full healthy offseason, a brand new coach, a new weapon in Jimmy Graham, gets rid of Mike McCarthy, who they had a lot of locker room turmoil for him. We might see Aaron Rodgers come back and be the Aaron Rodgers of old for one more season, come back out of nowhere and have an MVP season.
Gotcha. All right, we'll go with Max.
Okay, well, I decided to actually take dark horse literally and not pick someone who's in the top 5 best odds for MVP. And that would be Jared Goff, the quarterback, who is the quarterback for what was the best team in the NFC last year.
he was trying to
and
say
I'm not sure
my-
if you've
my
noticed
answer was
this,
stupid, he
ET,
came with Jared Goff.
but the MVP voters seem to be a little biased towards quarterbacks. So if Todd Gurley's knees are as bad as maybe the media wants us to think, And
then the
Jared
Rams
Goff-
will finish 8-8.
Right.
Probably not, because they're still one of the best teams in the NFC.
Because the blueprint is out on how to stop Goff. You treat him like Tom Brady. You hit him, he gets uncomfortable when he starts overthrowing footballs.
Really,
Do we
really
not watch the Super
groundbreaking
Bowl?
intelligence that if
Do
you
we
sack
not
the
see
quarterback, your team
No,
will be
I didn't
better.
say sack. I said hit.
Hit,
Jared Goff
sorry.
does not like to get hit.
No quarterback likes
But
to
when
get
he
hit.
no, there's a difference. Guys who play for contact, like Carson Wentz who
plays.
doesn't mind playing for contact, and guys like Jared Goff, who crowds under pressure
Okay,
and
sorry.
throws the
Out
ball
of the
away.
32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, how many like to get hit, ET?
Nobody likes to get
Carson
hit.
Wentz
What I'm
and
saying
no one
is-
else.
All
Cam
right.
Newton plays
All right, so sorry
There
I
it
took
is.
that dark horse literally and picked the guy who no one is going to expect to win the MVP.
ET has something super bizarre drawn
Yeah.
on his board, and I want him to tell us what it is. I
Baker
can't-
Mayfield, for all
Another-
those Cleveland Brown fans, and here's the reason why.
Wait.
This guy, I called
What
it.
is that?
That's a baker. That's a guy,
Oh my God.
a chef. Don't judge my
Am I
stick
the only one
figurine.
who understood
Listen,
this question? Am I the
Baker
only one who
Mayfield
understood
is the
this
dark
question?
horse for MVP, and here's the reason why. I told you folks on this set, Baker Mayfield was the best quarterback in that draft.
Yeah, he did.
I stand by it. And if you look at what the Browns did, Dorsey is a genius. He went out and brought him all the pieces that he needs to be great. And all Baker Mayfield has to do is come out and be exactly who he was last season. Not only will the Browns make the playoffs, they will win that division and they will surprise the New England Patriots in the second round and go to the Super Bowl. That will get him MVP.
All right, ET.
All
right.
So if
We
we
have that on camera,
we're
so
keeping
we
track
will
at
be going
home.
back
We
to
have
that.
2 top 5 due to odds candidates, and then
And
an actual,
Jared Goofy.
and Jared Goff, who's an actual dark horse.
But you speak of Baker Mayfield, on Baker's team is one of the best stories in the NFL right now. Damon Sheehy-Giuseppe, former flag football player, came into the Browns off the streets, talked his way into a tryout, ran a 4.3, and then had a punt return in this first preseason game in Odell's shoes. Damon Sheehy-Giuseppe's path to getting on the Browns is blank. James?
Inspiring. This man had a dream. This man had a goal, and he literally did not let anything stop him from getting it. And not only did he get his chance, but when he got his chance, he was ready to make a play and ready to make something happen. And he proved himself every step of the way. Just goes to show you that if you have heart and you have will and you have drive, that don't take no for an answer. Find a way to get done what you want to get done. And he did it. Also, the way you pronounce his name smoothly twice was actually very impressive.
Thank you.
Also very inspiring.
Max, you got something?
I will be the guy who keeps everyone in reality because it's incomplete. Every year there are so many stories like this. There's tons of feel-good stories in the preseason for the NFL every year, and unfortunately, just 99% of them don't pan out. This is the first preseason game. As much as I hate to say it, the punt return was great. He, apparently he's a huge inspiration to his teammates, loved by the fan base, and it seems like everyone's pulling for him, understandably so. But realistically, he still probably has 30 to 40 other people to beat out just to make a spot on the roster, and maybe 20 to 30 to beat out for a practice squad spot. So I would say that he's off to a good start, better than most guys in his position after one preseason game. But let's just call for what it is, and it's not over yet.
And I think the question maybe is or should have been his path to getting on the Browns preseason team, because it was a hell of a long shot for him to even get on the preseason team, let alone to get a punt returning spot.
Listen,
E.T.
if the Browns find a way to not get that kid, there are 20 NFL teams that will pick him up if nothing else but the run back kicks and punts. He probably is already better than half the team's special teams.
He's
kick
fast.
returners.
He has
fast.
burner.
all
4-3
you need.
speed, all he wants to do is run kicks and punts. So I'm going to summon 2 different things. One Eagles fans are going to like and one that I personally like. Invincible-esque, okay? And I'm going to go Rudy-esque. So if you've ever seen the movie, either one, I mean, there's stories about guys who basically walked on NFL teams. Well, one who walked onto an NFL team, one who walked onto a college team and had success. I think the Rudy story is a little bit more inspiring because of his path to get to making the roster, whereas Vince Papale is more like a tryout kind of thing. But the fact that he was able to, against all the odds, find a way to talk his way into a tryout and then work his way onto a roster he wasn't supposed to be on, just like the movie Rudy, where he did all that to get on Notre Dame's roster. It is something that, if nothing else, it's a feel-good story. Listen, I think it's dope. Anybody tells you can't do something, I mean, this man, talk about shooting your shot. He went all the way for it, and he won. So, hey, good for him.
Right. And
Whether it's
Rudy was offsides.
Shut up. Whether it's incomplete or not, whether it's a feel good story or not, I'm here for it.
Yeah, let the record show that I'm not rooting against the kid.
Nah.
Just if you ask me where his journey is to making the team, incomplete.
all right, guys, before we head into tap outs, Sean, do you have something for us over there?
Yeah, we got to check in with Taya Moore. She said Antonio Brown just wanted attention. He was not retiring over a helmet, and that's a silly stance, especially when he was quiet on the flag protest issue, which is something that's actually important. Reading between the lines there, Taya Moore, I think you're calling Antonio Brown spineless. I like it. And then she has a question for you guys. How far do you all think the Browns will go this season?
I already told you.
You said it.
This is Taya. Does ET have control of your account?
It might be.
How? I'm sitting here. I don't have a phone.
Check the feet.
Right.
I think it's going to come down to the Browns and probably the Ravens to win that division. And I don't think the Browns win it, but I think they might land themselves in a wild card after slightly missing the division lead to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But I think they have a successful season by any means.
Totally 100%
Baker
agree.
Mayfield's 100 times better than Lamar.
And
Jackson.
guess what? The best coach in that division is the Harbaugh, whose name I always mix up with his brother who coaches Michigan, John. Who's better than the other 3 coaches in that division combined. And let's not forget, the Browns might have a flashy offense and an upcoming defense. They still have major special team issues, which cost games. And if you cost games, that's going to cost you plaplayoff positioning. Am I wrong?
People forget what Lamar Jackson did with the Ravens last season when he got the starting job.
And they have a great defense
led them to the playoffs.
as well. But we'll have more of that going as we close in on the NFL season. But that's all that we have for today. We'll head into tap outs. We'll go left to right. Max, what do you have?
Okay, so my tap out is pretty simple. I had the pleasure of moving a couple of weeks ago on August 1st, and it was the longest 20-hour day of my life. I was up at 8:30, hoping. Well, actually, no, I was up way before that. I was up at 7:30. Had my first U-Haul load packed by 8:30. Was supposed to be able to move into my new house, start moving in at 12 noon. I wasn't able to put anything into my bedroom, living room, or kitchen until 11 p.m. that night, and therefore I did not have a lot of fun. Did not sleep very well. I slept on my living room floor, but we're all good. We're past that. I'm living free. I have all my Zen back. I would just say, if you're gonna move, just like hire someone. Me and my roommates had this discussion, and we said, no, we'll just do everything ourselves. We're 5 of us. We have no problems with this. We'll be fine. No. Next time I'm moving, I'm hiring people for at least an hour or 2 just to help with a little bit of that god-awful process. Yep. And that's it for me.
My tap out is something that I know I'm probably late to this party a little bit, but one of my friends just put me onto the show called Power, executive produced by 50 Cent. I know, E.T., you don't got to make a face at everything I say. I'm just getting onto this wave of Power. I think I just finished the 3rd season, but this show is immaculate. And I like, I'm saying, like, this show is so good. Yeah, like, I'm still haven't watched Game of Thrones. But no, this show is awesome. I can't wait to finish the 4th season and gear up for the new season that comes out. So that's all my tap out is today. I knew I wasn't going to get through that Gracefully, and I knew ET was going to have something to say about it.
Somebody get that man a fire stick, please.
That's most of it what it is.
He said this show called Power. Like nobody's heard of it.
That's most of what it is. I don't have the Stars Premium channel, so I got to like finesse my way to watch it
Get you
all
a
the time.
fire stick. Listen, man. Let me borrow your
fire
ET, what do you have?
Just real quick, man. I'm happy that back to school is coming up.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, listen, it's an exciting time of year for most of you parents. You got kids, they're either back to school or on their way to school. The back to school supplies, you get the composition notebook for $0.05. You get the 10-pack of pencils for 50 cents. You get the markers for $1. All those wonderful things. Also, congratulations to my brother Mike. He got married this weekend. Very happy for him.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to my brother Mike and my sister-in-law Donnie. So very happy for them. Outside of that, that's all I got, man. I'm excited about this new season. Let's get it.
Quick shout out to everyone who's heard that tab out for the 3rd time in this room.
Hey, 3 years, 3 back to schools.
Thank you so much for everyone. That's all that we have here today. And thank you for tuning in to Trust Process Live and my new Philly, where something's always new and everything's always Philly,
No,
baby.
but seriously, have you watched this show Power? Like it is literally
Someone who's not likely to
Power
win the
Song
award
at the
of question.
What are we doing?
And this is the outro to Power.
I'm glad you know it. So when we played all the songs before that, you didn't know what it was. We're in a big rich town. You didn't know what they were talking about.
I just come from the poorest parts. I'm ready for you, boy. I ain't forgot.